We're going to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We just need to approve and review the agenda. I do have a couple additions to the agenda. One is under, we didn't have old business at the time, but as of Friday, I got some information that we needed to share. So under old business will be a State Board of Accounts information that I've received. And then we will also have a discussion about meetings under old business in the future and how we want to conduct those as a board. So with those two additions to the agenda, do we have any other additions? If not, do we have approval for the agenda? Make a motion to approve. A second?
I second.
Okay. Those in favor? Aye. Motion carried. So then the minutes, you all have the minutes. You can review those if you've got any additions or corrections. If not, I need a motion to approve the minutes from our January 12th meeting.
I make a motion to approve.
Made a motion, second? Austin, second. All those in favor? Aye. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion for the minutes are done and approved. So at this time, we'll go ahead and do the food ordinance first. So Billy or Carl, which one of you are going to address that?
I can address it.
Okay.
So we had discussed the ordinance and reading through it. We're not real big fans of the way it's worded on some of this stuff. Part of it specifically is that mobile food vendors must reside in Clay County. And for Covered Bridge, Route 40, all of that, it's really not a feasible thing for those people because there's not that many mobile vendors that reside in Clay County. So we're looking to have that revised so it can be rewritten and reintroduced. That's what she's talking about.
Okay, so that's really just the main thing that
Yeah, it's just
get clarified.
Clarified and a couple of things rewritten. Like I said, we don't think that mobile vendors have to come from the county. They are looking at redoing mobile food at the state level as well. So we can take that into account and kind of adjust and be ahead of the game a little bit.
Okay, all righty. And then the next one would be the appointment of Dr. Mendoza, our health officer. If we have a motion to appoint him.
I move that the Clay County Board of Health appoint Dr. Mendoza to serve as our health officer for the next 4 years, beginning, if we go back to January 1st, would that be, of 2026 through December 31st of 2025.
Do we have a second for that?
I second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried and approved. Okay, so we're down to the updates from the health staff. We'll start with Brian.
Morning.
And you might tell them, I didn't mention it, there are up here on the table, there's a form that for an application for food inspection. There's the inspection form, and then there is a quick reference to the changes that have taken place that you can look at. So that's all available for anybody who needs those today. They're also available through the Clay County Health Department at any time if you need those. Sorry.
No, that's fine. If there's not enough hard copies, all of those documents were generated by IDOH. IDOH can also provide any of those documents.
I'm sorry, would you tell me again who you are?
Carl Carlton, I'm the health inspector.
Okay.
Food vendors in Clay County are frustrated. They're currently facing challenges that impact their businesses in ways that, for many, are surprised that these challenges exist. I want to talk about how we got here and how we can move forward to correct the problems. When I was hired in late September, the 2025 food code was already effective. It became effective on April 16th, 2025. For all intents and purposes, anyone selling food in Clay County should have already been compliant with that code before I was hired. But many vendors were not even aware that a new food code existed. That information could have easily been provided to them even before it became law. The food code was filed in March of 2025. It didn't become effective until that April. The health inspector would reasonably be expected to notify the food vendors in this county that would be affected. And all the vendors were affected. I have no records to indicate who was told what. When the last health inspector left, they purged all of the records from their computer. The health department lost all the vendor contact information, all the records of emails sent or received. They even lost the templates to the permit applications themselves. In the time that followed, the health department was forced to search records in the Chamber of Commerce to find vendors and cross-reference that to the system used to track payment receipts. When I was hired, that Excel file was given to me as a basis of who is operating in Clay County. That list is not complete. It lacks phone numbers, addresses, and email addresses. For more than a dozen vendors, I must rely on the permit renewal process to continue to collect contact information. Without that contact information, I have no way to find someone who is not operating a traditional brick and mortar storefront. I'm also facing the task of ensuring that all the vendors in Clay County are compliant with the regulations that the state has published. Some of the challenges that we are all facing with doing that is addressing incorrect information that vendors were previously given. Some people have built their entire businesses around incorrect information. We have vendors operating commercial retail businesses on residential septic systems. We have home-based vendors that were told they could sell their products in retail stores. And we have retail stores that were told they could put home-based vendor products on their shelves. We have people selling food who have never been permitted at all. Those people were never told that what they were doing was a problem. The truth is, some of those people planned and built their entire business on bad information, and that left them trying to figure out how to earn an income and not be operating illegally. Operating legally is a matter of ensuring that everyone is being held to the same standard. We can't expect one restaurant to have safety equipment and not the restaurant next to it. We can't expect one vendor to be trained on food safety and not the next vendor. We need consistency. We need equal standards, and people deserve that. Every food vendor or retail establishment or home-based vendor deserves to be held to the same standard. That standard is published by IDOH. It's impartial. It doesn't allow for favoritism. It doesn't allow for political agenda. And it's not a secret document. It's available to everyone. It's available to people who want to start a business, and it's available for people who already run a business. The health department has been accused of targeting small businesses. The term is usually mom and pop businesses. The problem we run into is we have mom and pop businesses that are current on all of their requirements. We have mom and pop businesses that have been running and some that have just started, and they follow the regulations. But we also have mom and pop places that we have to convince to overcome the mindset of, we've always done it that way. Muscle memory is real, and running a business a certain way turns into muscle memory. It's hard to retrain when you find out things need to change. It can absolutely be difficult to find out that a business that supports your family is going to require more investment than you had planned for, especially when that investment takes the form of updating how you operate. It's not easy, but not easy doesn't mean not necessary. It needs to be fair across the board. If a new business starts, they shouldn't have expectations that are more strict than a business that has been here for 10 years. It's not fair for a mom and pop burger restaurant to have relaxed expectations that a chain burger restaurant can't also relax. And it's true the other way around too. A chain burger restaurant should not have more strict expectations than a mom and pop burger restaurant. If Wendy's opened their restaurant again and didn't renew their permit, the health department would absolutely address that. And I think the community would support that. But we have food vendors in Clay County that have never applied for a permit. It shouldn't matter whether it's a mom and pop, a franchise, a food truck, or a chain restaurant. We have a responsibility to ensure that the food that our communities eat is safe. And the first step in that is the permit process. I have a mom and pop business in Clay County that sells eggs. This vendor is operating following all of the rules. They are registered and current with the egg board. They called me to ask if there are requirements from the health department about selling their eggs in retail stores. And again, it's a mom and pop business. But I have another mom and pop business doing the exact same thing, but they've never contacted the egg board or gotten a permit from them. They have also never contacted the health department to see if we have requirements for them. Both mom and pop, and they should both be held to the same standard. The rules need to be enforced equally so that legal operators aren't put at a disadvantage. I've done my best to make sure that vendors who do get inspected can see what I'm inspecting based on the state food code. Every inspection report that I write has the code section identified. So if there's a question about why something is a violation, the business owners can compare the inspections to the food code itself. And to go a step further, every violation is also photo documented. Not having consistency is what put a lot of our businesses at risk. I think most people want to do the right thing. And most of the people who have seen negative impacts to their businesses recently were led to believe that they were doing the right thing. And faced with these challenges, it seems natural to blame the person telling them, you can't do that. It's harder to realize that the real person responsible is the person who told them they could. And in some cases, everyone needs to understand that sometimes laws change. There was a time when seatbelt laws didn't exist. And none of us can demand that because that law is new, that we're exempt from following it. We have to work together to adjust to new rules that people's muscle memory isn't used to.
Thank you. Charity, do you have a report for us?
It's short and sweet from here. This for you guys.
I look forward.
All right, so for the school nurse liaison, since January, we completed Catch My Breath anti-vaping education for all 5th and 7th grade students. So about 600 students were served. You guys are seeing the billboard winners. So we picked 2 winners across the corporation. Those are our 2 winners. They will have their billboards placed on either side of town on 40 in May. Then we had 3 runners up. They got Amazon gift cards and candy. We did deodorant for all 4th and 5th grade students. Also another 600 students that were served. We partnered with the Indiana Online students with the INGDA and did hearing and vision screens for about 10 students over spring break. Immunization letters have gone out to all 5th and 11th grade students. We passed out 25 tick removal kits to all schools. Monthly wellness clinics for the county. Those were completed up till now. We have another one next week, and we've seen approximately 60 people. Lead testing was done at Head Start, and we served 3 students there. And then we did vision screening with our Spot Vision camera. I was able to catch 1 student that had a lot of issues, and will be taken care of. Yes.
And busy.
Yes, very.
I love the billboards when they go up. A lot of community contact on those, and good way for kids to express their creativity and put a good message out in our community. Okay. Billy.
Okay, so mine covers a lot of different areas, so we're gonna kind of jump through them. Septic, I currently have 18 systems that are currently in the process somewhere, and that's from the time that they request the permit. I've probably got another 40 or 50 that I have the sites for that haven't done the permit yet. I have 7 that have completed the permit process, but they have not started their actual installs yet. 4 that have been installed this year. As far as pools go, Brazil Pool's not opening this year. Best Western is opening. We contacted them, made sure to remind them that they have to have an inspection before they open. As far as Vector, which is going to be your bugs, I met with a state field entomologist. We discussed the plans for mosquito and tick trapping. It's pretty much going to be the same. She did let me know that with the number of positives that are coming statewide, as soon as you get a positive, they stop testing. You now have, whatever in the bugs. I had on there that we gave the schools the tick kits. Charity had said that there were a lot of kids that were coming in with ticks on them and things like that. And so the school nurses needed to be able to pull those off safely. And those tick kits do really well in that. As far as lead, we've done 2 in-home lead risk assessments this year, and they're still ongoing. Complaints, I've gotten about 10 here lately. Most of them were for the roadway in just at 70 and 59. We went and did an inspection there. It's exactly what I expected to see, but with the state legislation for hotel style housing, there's not a whole lot of inspection backup that goes along with that. So you have to really be able to prove an imminent health hazard to do anything with them. As far as water testing, I did receive a call that, actually I've received about 3, that someone had stated that the health department was assisting the local trailer parks with trapping and getting rid of feral cats. We are not doing that. I just want to make sure everybody realized that. Water testing, we're still providing E. coli and coliform tests to the residents at no cost. And the only thing new with that is we did get a flyer for a new lab that's local. I think it's in Mishawaka, so it's not super local, but it's local. And then notable items for me was attending the winter OSS meeting in Noblesville. So that was going over all the new septic codes, all the new technologies, things like that, kind of what's coming. Other than that, that's it.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is the Brazil roadway thing?
The Brazil Roadway is a hotel by Burger King at 59 and 42 and 70, all right in there.
Yeah.
The one back in the back.
Oh, okay.
That's, we went in there and kind of looked around, and the rooms that had obvious problems, they're telling us are out of service rooms. So the ones that we can't go into are the ones that they currently have rented out to people. So it's a challenge to be like, oh, well, you have this problem that you have to fix. Well, it's not a service room, so it's not technically being inhabited. So it's a lot, and I've been reaching out to the state with that one. Actually, my on-site sewage septic guy was the one that went with me for the inspection because he did a lot of code enforcement in his previous job. So he kind of was a subject matter expert for me for that, because there just isn't one for hotels.
Is that, do they rent out like a motel type thing, or do people extend the rental, or what? I don't know what it's.
Both. They have employees that live there, and then they have people that we've had travelers that come in and they're like, we didn't have hot water for 3 days, but whenever you're like, can we see this room? And they're like, oh, it's out of service. So there's a lot of loophole there.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions, comments? Rachel? Do you have anything from WIC you want to?
Nothing new from WIC, we are fully staffed now.
Yay.
That'll be on the office, but nothing new right now,
All
so,
going well?
yes.
Okay, thank you. And Kim?
Drive bus. I do not have the new quarter for the first quarter of this year, but they assure me that our numbers have really jumped this quarter. So they did drop off some new flyers. They have got a new route, and it is also posted on their website also. Last November, I would say before the holidays, I purchased 100 bus tickets to help with people that were, needed rides. And we took those to the housing authority, the food banks. We put some in the blessing boxes, and I gave some to the bus driver. And we also had some in the office. Those 100 are all gone. I called and checked and like 40 have been returned, 40 some. So there's still 60 out there. But we do have people coming into the office and asking for them, and the housing authority has been asking for them. So I purchased another 100, but this time I'm going to stamp them so I kind of know. Last time I didn't do that, so I don't know which ones are being used and what ones are getting lost. Maybe they'll still come through. I hate to purchase some and then they not be used, but I do think it is a need. It's $1 a trip, but for a day. It's a day, not for a trip, but anyway. So that's still going good. Back in February, we had the IU mobile lung scan unit here. Only three people were scheduled and 2 showed up. So, you know, we try to do good things and sometimes it just doesn't work. For the summer, I'm scheduling some health fairs. Clay City Center for Family Medicine is having a health fair at Clay City Fair on June 17th. And we're going to be there. And also we're going to PPG, their health fair, to their 2 different locations on June 26th. And we've got the A1C meters and the cholesterol meters. I'm going to do some blood pressures and that kind of thing. So our online birth and death certificates and our permitting and all that, that is going great. Now we can issue out-of-county death certificates and birth certificates. And just for March alone, we issued 104 death certificates for out-of-county deaths. I know the funeral homes here in Clay County are really appreciating that they don't have to go all over the state to pick up death certificates. So that has been a big help for them. I sent out for you guys, but I got this from the Indiana State Department of Health, and I'm going to hand this out. But cancer rates for Clay County, the breast cancer, we are number 87 out of 92, and that is not good. We want to be low, not high. So that's something where I personally know, and from talking to other people that have had this, I'm one of those statistics. And I knew the number was high because I know of a lot of people around that are going through that right now. So anyway. Any thoughts on that one? And our emergency preparedness coordinator position is still open, so.
Have you had any applicants?
I've had a few.
Any questions for Kim?
Is that a part-time position, Kim?
Do what?
Is that part-time?
Yes.
Okay. Back in early December, Kim and I met with State Board of Accounts due to accusations about the grant that I'd worked under and not filed a conflict of interest form. And then just to go over the grant and make sure the money was used as it should have been used. We met with 2 men by the name of Cody Morgan and Ed Wheely, I think. And I talked with Cody on Friday because they told me 3 months we'd hear something, and it'd been over 3 months. So I did talk to Cody, and he said he has now given where he can release everything and meet with us in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But he said I could share today that there was no fraudulent activity and all the money was accounted for, and there's no reason for any concern for anything that would need paid back or looked at or anything like that. He will review with our committee that and with the commissioners and things that in the future, not just the health board, but any other boards in Clay County, should there be a conflict of interest, there is a form that needs to be filled out. He says they're seeing this statewide where this form has not been completed when it needs to be at times. And so they are doing a review to make sure that in the future, those things will happen. So I guess at my expense, we had a good lesson learned, let's put it that way. And we will have that review in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and an exit review of the commissioners. And the board will all be included in that, but he said there's nothing fraudulent, no funds to be repaid, everything else checked out fine. I will say Kim's records for that grant were immaculate and very, every dime was accounted for, so it was, should have been an easy review for them to do. Okay, the other thing is we talked about our meetings the last time, whether to move to monthly or how to handle that. Then we kind of started doing, Kim sent out monthly updates on things that was going on. So I guess as a board, do we want to continue with the monthly updates, our quarterly meetings, and then other meetings as needed? Is that adequate for our board, or do you want something different? So I'm going to let you guys voice your opinion.
Personally, and I've said this in the past, I think in the January meeting, I think meeting 4 hours a year isn't enough. Carl, for instance, was hired after our, I didn't meet him until January, and he'd already been in business, 3 months? And so I think that in order for the board to, even though Kim sends it out, I just think there's some contact, we need to have contact and know what's going on, get a finger. We don't get paid a whole lot for this, let's face it. You do it because you want to do a community service. So, I just think we just need that face comment. I think that the public needs to be, have the access to put their input into the board without reading it on Facebook or real chatter.
Any other comments from our board? So Ann, are you proposing we meet monthly or maybe, I don't know,
I don't know. I just think
every 3 months?
every 3 months is a little, I think we need to be more than every 3 months, but I don't know about monthly. I don't know.
Maybe every other month.
I would have thought.
There is a couple, I did a survey of surrounding counties. Putnam, Vigo, Vermillion, Greene, and Owen, they still meet quarterly. Park County just started this year doing every other month. I looked up counties close to our population, and Decatur County, which was as close to ours as you can get, they meet every other month. So Park and Decatur meet every other month.
Would we want to try every other month to see how it goes? And then we can always reevaluate if that doesn't. Okay, do I have a motion from a board member?
I make a motion that the Clay County Board of Health meet every other month.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. All righty, we'll change our meetings to every other month.
Do you want to schedule those so I can get them on the calendar, or do you?
Certainly, we'll kind of look at those. Let me see if I can get to my calendar real quickly. Today is April 13th, so maybe we need to look at June, try to stay with the schedule. I think we try to do the second Monday, so it'd be like June the 8th, August the 10th, October the 12th, and December the 14th.
October 12th. I don't know, that's
Columbus Day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can we make June the 15th, because I won't be
June the
here.
12th.
Is that
Okay,
okay?
you won't be here. Let's go back
I
and
won't
look
be
again.
here like the first.
What about June 22nd? Will you
Yeah.
be? Okay, let's move the June to June
Yeah.
22nd. Dr. Mendoza's not available the 15th.
Yes.
And we can, then the October meeting, let's move then to the following, October 19th. And we can get those dates
Oh,
out.
what about December? Sorry.
How about 14th?
So I've got June 22nd, August the 10th, October the 19th, and December the 14th.
I
27.
think so.
Uh-huh.
Does that work for everybody for the most part? And there's always the opportunity to call in. If you're not available, you can call in and we will, that tends to work. I did it the other day when I had a meeting and it worked okay. I could actually felt like I was part of the meeting, so that can work. Okay.
Thank you.
At this time, does the board have any, oh, wait,
Thank you.
can.
We briefly discussed at our last meeting about legal counsel for the board and the importance of having that and that coming from outside of our county, so it's impartial. I just want to bring that up again and to see what the process would be for obtaining that and the funding.
Okay. Let's do some research on that before the next meeting, so that'll definitely go on for our new business next meeting about legal counsel for the Board of Health. And you're suggesting the legal counsel come from outside our county. Okay, and maybe we can review on what some other counties are doing with that too, so that we kind of have something. So I think that's a good place to start at least.
I have something to say. Kim, it's a real help when you make our, we get our email, the monthly reminders, so things that have happened and keeping us updated. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think, Austin, you had something our board had met and kind of put together just a statement. I'm going to let Austin read it because he does a good job with things like that, but this is from the whole board.
Clay County Health Department proudly supports the Indiana Retail Food Code and its latest updates. These changes focus on 5 key areas: definitions, employee health and hygiene, food safety, equipment and facility requirements, and compliance and enforcement. Each plays an important role in guiding operators, strengthening regulations, and protecting public health across Clay County. Applications and additional information can be obtained at the Clay County Health Department. Together, we are committed to safer food practices and a healthier community. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact Clay County Health Department at 812-448-9021.
I just had something from the health department. The Clay County Health Department promotes and safeguards the health and well-being of our rural community. The Indiana Rural Code mandates the rules and codes in which Clay County is required to follow with each and every food inspection. In order to ensure fair and uniform inspections of all food establishments, our health inspectors use the state 3-page form for all inspections. Each section of these forms must be addressed in every inspection. This ensures that every establishment is inspected in the same consistent manner. So that's why we did make these forms available. They're available here today. They're always available through the health department. We want to help you stay in business. Unfortunately, we have to follow the state guidelines. So if there's things
comment section
in a moment, so we have to help people to be able to do this, and that our board did meet in an executive session and discuss, that is our goal, to keep everybody informed and to make sure that we are meeting the requirements that are needed at the same time. So now we will open for any public comment. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I should have said, addressed to Carl when he spoke, but I didn't realize we could comment then. But there's a couple of things that I need to suggest to you. Is it possible, whenever you put inspections in the newspaper, could we just put, I don't mind explaining critical. I look at the way Terre Haute does theirs. You put the critical and list what the critical is, but if there's several non-critical things that really wouldn't bother anybody and it's not detrimental to their health, could we just look like
Accounts.
this many how's that phrase? Non-critical.
So that was the old food code?
No. If you can just say, you can list the critical and what they are, but if I'm thinking of,
Priority Foundation Corp.
no, what that restaurant that you inspected that was big, long list of.
Mario's.
Yeah, Mario's, yeah. If you could just say like X number, non-critical, non-compliant, and leave it at that.
Absolutely.
And then they can have a place to look it up if they want to see all of them, but it filled up like a half page in the newspaper. That would be a lot better, because I don't think anyone's real concerned about the, I shouldn't call it Mickey Mouse, the minor things. It's the major things that we all are concerned about, I'm sure.
Well, can I respond?
Yeah.
So I agree. Some of the violations that are not imminent health hazard, they seem tedious. The reason that we still look at those is because it demonstrates the vendor's participation level in upholding the food code. If you have 80 violations of minor infractions, of core violations, which are generally a 90-day fix, if you have several of those, then it demonstrates that that food vendor is not interested in doing things the way that they want to do. I can absolutely limit that to a count, a total count of non-priority violations. What about priority foundation? How would you like me to address that?
If it's critical, I don't have a problem with it.
The
I
term
think just, the only thing that bothered me was I started reading down to it. I just kept reading and reading. It was a mile long.
No, I understand.
And
I guess I need to know your
the critical
intent.
things, I don't mind. Those
Well,
should be published.
the term critical is the old food code. We don't.
Well,
That's what I mean. And I didn't start working here under the old food code. So you're referencing things that I don't know what you're talking about.
So we could give a total of, you got, because it's priority, foundation, or is what they break it down to now. And we can give you a number of this and a number of this and a number of this, and that be all that's on the post. But you're not gonna know what they are unless you come into the health department and request the inspection, which anybody can do. But we've not had anybody come in and request one yet, so.
I think most of the public, the only thing they're concerned about is this gonna affect my health?
Right.
And the rest of it, if they're really interested, they can go to the health office and look at that.
Well, that is true. There were some, not to call out a specific vendor, but I've seen vendors who store their trash cardboard on the floor inside the kitchen before they take it out at the end of the day. And the problem is that's harborage, that invites pests. So is the cardboard on the floor scary in and of itself? It's not, but it's inviting pests into the environment. So
it's kind of like a chain of events kind of deal.
right, and that's what I meant to say, that it goes to demonstrate their general practices. If you have 80 violations and none of them are priority violations, none of them are, I feel like there's poisonous food on the line. I understand your point, and I can reduce that to a count. But multiple violations like that is a definite indicator that that vendor
Well,
is.
if you list, they had 60 violations,
Yes, ma'am.
however you phrase that, then that should be a red flag, just knowing the number of them.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
So, if I saw 60 of them, I might be concerned and go, look, if I was.
Okay.
I think
Also, there's
more
some
people would look at it that way. I think when it gets too lengthy, the public doesn't look at it. And
That's fair.
Yeah, there, you might even get that targeting idea of people. There's something else too. Whenever there was a complaint about the Chinese place and Kroger,
Yes, ma'am.
did we go ahead and put, I don't know, did you put in the paper then that you looked at that and whether there was foundation to it or not?
So I didn't. There's been enough going on that I didn't post. I did shut down the Chinese restaurant. I shut them down for the weekend. I cited them for imminent health hazard. They had mouse disruption. And again, these reports are available at the health department, but I did shut them down. They had pest problems. I shut them down for the weekend. I went back in on Monday and his whole crew had been in there over the weekend and it looked like a different restaurant now. So I opened it back up. The complaints at Kroger, were bed bugs, which I don't know if that doesn't necessarily create an imminent health hazard where I can close them. I've been in contact with them at least every 3 days. I'm making sure that they're bringing out their pest control company. They're addressing the problems. I have not seen insects at Kroger's. I have not seen the problems of the complaints. So the only thing I can do is ensure that they continue to bring out pest control. And every time I get a complaint, I visit them and they send me a new invoice. I have all the paperwork that they're taking it seriously. But no, I didn't post that either.
It'd probably be a good idea because, again, I'm not a big fan of social media, but, somebody jumps right on there and
No.
says, and you don't want to encourage anybody, a disgruntled employee or a disgruntled customer
You're right.
starting to call in and say,
You're right. I think one of the biggest reasons that I didn't make it a priority, there were so many comments about when I closed Jack's. There were comments about what a food grade bucket was. There's so many comments of people that have never come to look at the inspection report, that don't know what the violations are, and it spins out of control. So I made the post less of a priority, and I focused on making sure that the inspections were happening.
I think you just address the fact that, yes, I looked into this, would go a long way.
Fair. I can start doing that.
Also to point out, we've not had anybody come directly to the health department to be like, hey, what's going on with all of this? We've not had a single complaint about any of it. So it's kind of hard for us to recognize an issue if it's only brought up on Facebook. I'm not a big Facebook user when it comes to posts and things like that. I don't think it's an appropriate place to lodge a complaint. And we don't accept complaints lodged that way. We have papers in the office that you can come in, you can get online, and you can put it in the contact us information. And it'll come to Kim and I, so that we can have those concerns addressed, but we've not received any yet. So,
and I would also like to say that despite everything on Facebook, I feel like the health department and Jack's Fine Foods has a very productive relationship now. He's doing everything that he's supposed to do now, and he's eager to continue to do things the right way. The negativity that everyone is seeing about Jack's, it's not coming from Jack's.
No.
It's coming from people who have no dog in the fight.
Unfortunately, that's Facebook. And Clay City Chatter and Brazil Chatter.
That's right, but as the Board of Health, I just want you guys to know that we do have a good relationship with Jack's Fine Foods now. And I'm very pleased with what he's doing now. So if all you hear are the complaints about our relationship, all of those complaints are wrong. They're uninformed opinions. And I wanted you guys to know that, to realize that.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, we'll go on to public comments because I know Dr. Burns, Dr. Sorner, Dr. Mendoza, Dr. Brightweiser have appointments that they have to keep. So if at any time you do need to leave, we understand. And at this time, if public comments are limited to 3 minutes, and you need to state your name and your zip code. Yeah, you can come up here.
I was gonna say, you want me to come up there? Or,
But
most of you know, Mike Heaton, 47834. Most of you know me from being sheriff's office for the past 28, 30 years. Now I'm county council. And we've talked a lot about regulations, rules, guidelines. And so even in the law, I understand that. There's guidelines in the laws that, okay, you have to get to this procedure. You can skip it. Steps 1, 2, as long as you get to the end product. Procedures, no, you have to follow steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't think anybody's really questioning that. The complaints that I have received, which I don't have a dog in the fight right now because we don't have an appointment as county council on the board, unless that's changed down the road. But it's the manner of which has been portrayed and the rude comments, and attacking people, not as an educational saying, well, hey, here's the rules. I understand in the past, we were all educated. We didn't get in our positions by not being educated. We didn't just step into it. We've had to learn, along the lines. So there is working with people. And so when you attack somebody and they're rude, and you and I had a conversation prior to all this, way back. And so unfortunately, you have to deal with social media. And so now the perception is out there. But when you are rude and it's a violation, you fall under the county handbook rules. You know, and you're to offense. There's things about being discourteous to public. You're dealing with the public. There's a group 3 offenses, dishonest actions. And, you know, and I know there's some people here that have talked about the dishonest actions and seen text messages and there's been complaints. Maybe I've got complaints. I refer them to the commissioners, I said, because I don't have an appointment on the board as a county council member. I don't, I'm not vested in that part yet. You know, but we're all here to make the county better. And that's what we need to work together. But I don't want to see this continued complaint of mistreating these different groups, restaurant owners. There's a way to educate people. I dealt with criminals my entire life. And they don't always tell me the truth. And sometimes you do have to stand up, you know, and be stern with them. There's a time to do that. But I said, all the complaints that I've gotten, I forwarded to the commissioners because that's their appointment. They get the complaints they're telling you, all right? That there's different steps in complaint processes. You may not get it directly, you're getting them indirectly. And it's the board's job then to investigate, just as it was mine. You know, if there was a complaint on a deputy or a jail officer, I had to investigate to see if there was merit to that complaint. And so those are the things. You know, I've got text messages, screenshots of text messages of events that have happened that are not in the best interest of the county. You know, it's using a position to try to gain something is considered a dishonest action. And I'll be more than happy. I'm not going to make it public. I'll share it with you. But it came straight from your health inspector.
Thank you. And I will say that our board has met. We are addressing issues and we are looking into those things. And interesting enough, I will speak for myself, the board, I received nothing directly to me, which it seems like to me, they know who's on the board. If there's issues, I wish they would contact us directly instead of putting things out on Facebook. It would make it easier for me to have factual information. Any other board members want to comment to that?
I'm open for anyone to contact me.
All righty. Yeah. State your name and your zip code.
My name is Joanne Wilkerson. I own White Pine Manor, which is a wedding venue. He actually stole my thunder, so that's the way I feel about it. My first interaction, so a little bit of a backstory. We do events for cars because every other month or so, totally free. I provide food, we provide the venue, because the man who works with me, son, goes to cars. So this is something we do as a way to bless the community. And then because they're a joy. So I guess around Thanksgiving, we had, now so here's the tricky part. The law for venues is different. Of course, we don't have a kitchen. We have caterers. So the alcohol laws are specific for venues, and I follow that to the letter. Vague, okay, because they're private events. So a private invitation only event, you can bring your own food, is my understanding. So like if bride's grandma wants to make the food, they can. I still understand it that way, as long as no money exchanges hands. Okay, so this event, we also live on the property, which complicates this even further. So the venue is an extension of my home when we have large events for cars. So there's about 35, 40 of them. So apparently we made some macaroni and cheese in a roaster oven for Thanksgiving. Something came up, they just asked me to throw it in the roaster oven, which I did. And then in around February, Carl shows up to my husband, and here we go. When I raised my kids, I always told them it's in the delivery. You can come to me and ask me something, you come to me and talk to me in a respectful way. It's going to go completely different. So my husband felt blindsided because we don't do food. He said he'd been searching Facebook and saw where we had served macaroni and cheese for an event. So that kind of started it. My experience with Carl has not been pleasant. He did, in our conversation we had, he did apologize, which was good. But when I called him 3 times and never got a call back. So I'm worried about the situation. I don't follow those laws because those are laws I didn't realize I needed to. And when we had our conversation, he kept saying, you're hosting events. Very rarely do I actually host an event. I am the venue that rents to the person who hosts the event. So do you see how complicated? So as I'm trying to work all this out, he got more and more frustrated. When I asked for the code that applies to the venue, he actually raised his voice toward me on the phone. He did apologize later, but I'm still not clear where my rules are, what I'm supposed to follow. And I'm also afraid we had 62 weddings in our venue last year. 80% were from Indianapolis. Here's my fear. I do not want Clay County to be known as don't go to Clay County to get married because the health inspector might show up at your wedding. That's a fear because I draw these people in. They shop in Clay County, they stay in Clay County, they support many of the businesses here in Clay County. I am fearful of that. So again, to reiterate what he said, my vision is we all work together to keep everyone safe. We're all treat each other with respect. Don't make the assumption, and I told him this on the phone, don't walk in making the assumption someone's trying to be dishonest and get away with something. We work hard to keep our businesses going. There's so many rules. We're trying to follow all the rules. So when you walk in, just make the assumption they're honest. If it's proven they're not, it's proven they're not. That's all I have to say.
I did your,
Sorry.
I did your business and it's very nice. And
Thank you.
I am glad you're here. And I would encourage you to call and set a meeting up with Kim Hyatt and
Okay.
voice concerns with her. And, it might be if myself or one of the other board members is available that day, we'd be happy to sit down with you.
If you walk me through it, I'd be happy to follow the rules. If I feel like it keeps getting shifted.
And to be honest, I've read this several times and I get confused because it depends, apple and cherry pies I can bake all day long, but I can't do, and I understand I can't do certain cream pies and things like that. And the rules are different. And so it is complicated right now. That's the best thing I can say. This food ordinance is complicated. And we are going to have to work together to come up with how to keep our small businesses in business and yet still meet the Indiana ordinance. So
And it has
thank you
to
for
go
sharing.
all venues, not just mine. All
Thank you.
venues in the county.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Natalie Cassidy Pierce, and I'm the owner of Perk Me Up Coffee in Nana's Kitchen. Perk Me Up Coffee has been in business since 2011. Nana's Kitchen, it was established in 2017 as a need for gluten-free and organic foods. To my knowledge, I had been following all of the health codes that I knew of that had been presented to me. I didn't know that there was more information out there. I understand that when Carl came on the scene as the new health board inspector, maybe a lot of us didn't know what the codes were. And we need to bring our establishments up to those codes. And I am completely more than willing to comply with that. The problem is that when you're dealing with an establishment that has been established again since 2011, 2017, there's never been a year that I've gone without a health board certificate in 27 different counties because we've been all over Indiana and even some into Kentucky. And so when Carl had contacted me regarding a Facebook post that I put up, I have the habit of going on Facebook, on my Facebook page, and you can actually schedule posts to come forward. And I was doing that because I had opened the restaurant, which consumed my life. I was becoming an empty nester, and I was like, okay, prime time, but it was consuming my life. So it made it a whole lot easier to go ahead and schedule these posts. Within the restaurant, in that specific place shut down, and I went to a new location, which we're still trying to remodel because we decided to become foster parents, which totally rocked our entire world because we now have 3 children that are in desperate need. of what we can provide for them. So everything kind of halted a little bit. Well, I have a lady that's worked with me for quite a while, and to make a long story short, she didn't know that she needed for us to have a current catering license or retail license on that. And rather than Carl understanding that, I was like, oh my goodness, because as soon as he brought it to my attention, I was dumbfounded, immediately started texting her, hey, was this that you did this? He flat out called me a liar 3 times to my face. And I just got so upset, I started shaking and crying. Like he went downstairs to print something or something, and I started shaking and crying. And I thought, never in my life have I been disrespected like that. I am here being forthcoming and truthful with you. And you are looking me in my face and calling me a liar. And I don't have to lie to you. I brought out health board certificates and showed him. And previously, they had been putting Nana's Kitchen and Perk Me Up Coffee on the same one, because when I have the 10 by 20 tent, half of it is Nana's Kitchen, half of it is Perk Me Up Coffee. And that way we have people working. They don't have to hurry up and go to the food and then hurry up and go to the coffee. It's just one tent, 2 different, businesses, but under the same DBA. And he called me a liar over running the coffee side of it. I need a permit to sell hot or cold coffee because of what it is. But I was not understanding that I needed a permit for dry bean coffee. I'd never in all the years in 2011 been told that ever before. I know a lot of the verbiage has changed, definitions, wording has changed, just like she was using, critical versus, I'm not sure what they call it now. So we're all having to become versed on that. My suggestion is getting with all food establishments. If you're a vendor, a food vendor that sets up at different events, call a meeting, all of us to be able to come, everyone that he has contact for, and then all of us that do know, we can get a hold of other people and bring them. Have a set meeting, and let's bring us all up to the knowledge of restaurants, the same thing, caterers, the same thing. I feel like that would be the best thing. And I even emailed him and asking him, rather than coming in like a bulldog, basically, why not just come to us respectfully and have a respectful working relationship? Because most of us are very respectful people. I mean, I know I am, and if you guys disagree, fine. But I'm a respectful individual, and I would like to be treated that way because I'm going to treat you that way. He did apologize to me after I was like, who do you think you are to call me a liar? Don't do that. And then he said, okay, I'm sorry I called you a liar. But then has continued to treat me very disrespectfully, doesn't answer emails, doesn't return phone calls, things like that. So I have now gone to and contacted the state level. I've contacted Purdue food science to try to get the knowledge, to the information, and doing all kinds of research and according to what they're sending me and bringing things up to, because I feel this relationship is already strained as a result of the way that he treated me. And I would love another opportunity for him to meet with me and us bring this, a relationship better if he'd be willing to. But that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. And please never hesitate to call in. Kim's our administrator at the health department. So that's one of the problems. We need to be hearing things and we weren't hearing. So again, I encourage you to set a meeting with Kim. I think your suggestion on setting a large meeting for vendors and home-based things. We've got a public library next to us that would have adequate room to do that. And so I strongly suggest that the health department set something up like that in the near future so we can get everybody on the same page. And
see, that's another thing. So like I've been doing catering. I've had the restaurant. I also had the food trailer. I also set up at different events and then home baking. And I didn't know I wasn't allowed to do all of that stuff at the same time. No way did I know that. And I've done it for all these years with all the health board inspectors prior to. And so I know that he's kind of inherited, maybe people don't know, the knowledge. I understand that completely. I just think we need a better working relationship between us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brian Whitnight, Brazil resident, longtime resident, lifelong resident. Our health inspectors talked about following the rules to the T pretty much. I can appreciate that. He's a little too hard-handed on it, obviously. But it's come to my attention that he probably owns or operates his own food truck service business. And all the rules and laws that I've looked up, I'm not an attorney, so I could be wrong. points that that could be illegal, could be against the state rules. At the very least, it's an obvious conflict of interest. I'm a little disturbed that there was very little oversight when we hired. Like you were talking about, you didn't have time to really look into it.
Yeah.
And obviously, apparently has temper problems or whatever. I'm just gonna keep it real that short. To me, that seems a bigger problem than all of this. Because apparently it sounds like he may not have should have been hired in the first place. Thank you for the time.
Would you like me to address that then? So when interviewing Carl, he was forthcoming that he has a food truck. He does not operate in Clay County, so he's not inspected by anybody in Clay County. If he operates in Vigo, he's inspected by Vigo, same for Putnam, same for any other county.
Competition.
But so as far as outside of the county, we don't have anything to do with that. He's not inspecting. So it's up to their inspectors. We're not in control of what their inspectors do or don't do. And we just go through the food code. So.
At the best of my knowledge, do you do any events here in Clay County?
No, man, the last event that I did was in Montezuma for Covered Bridge.
That's all due respect. That he is in competition with other food services here in the county.
Mr. Carlton did participate in the Clay County Forex Fair last year. And I believe accepted to the castle, which is in Vigo County, for a medieval event.
No, like.
He was hired by the YMCA just like.
Yes, he was.
But that was all prior to his employment with us.
That was prior to my employment here.
Do we have any other comments? If not.
Yeah.
Brian, I still have Big Ranch Barbecue, from the 47881, actually, I installed. Several different directions. First thing I want to address, what Joanne said a while ago, delivery means a lot. It really does, in the way we present. You can either be out to kill or out to help. And sometimes you make that first impression and it's hard to get past that. You're probably not going to get past that, to be honest with you. Okay? I've heard from several people now, well, nobody came forward. Nobody complained to me. Nobody. I think it's important to understand there is a huge fear of retribution.
Yes.
Okay? I'm sorry, guys. I mean, that's, you know, they're not going to come to you. Nobody's going to walk into Kim and say, hey, I got a problem with the jackass that's coming out and doing this stuff. Okay? No matter how they feel, that's going to be, oh crap, I don't know what side she's on, what the views are, okay? And Kim didn't experience what some of, everyone has as far as just the attitude. That you get the perception that this guy's not on my page, okay? We did have a little bit of running, just for the record. The last time I spoke with Carl, he said I was good to open. I had we did have a couple issues that we looked at, no problem, I fixed. My issues were the way he handled that again. First of all, he came to me back before Thanksgiving. It was like the 21st maybe of November, and said, hey, introduced himself, right before shift, Carl's Health Department. Well, hey, nice to meet you. Hey, I just want to let you know your permit application is coming due. Yeah, I'm aware. End of the month, the 30th. Okay. Well, you here to do an inspection? No, I don't want to do that right now. I just stopped, Okay. So we talked just briefly about it. I said, yeah, thank you. I said, I think you do it online or whatever. So I usually just go in. Well, just to let you know, you're already late. Huh? I'm late? Well, yeah. Those are supposed to be in 14 days before the due date. So technically you're already late, you got a $50 late fee. Okay, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem paying that, but I don't agree with that. That doesn't seem right to me. I usually don't get a bill that I have a late fee 14 days prior to paying it. So he explains why. I said, okay, I'll look at it. Well, it's pretty clear. It's right on the application. Well, then I go in to pay it, and Laura's in there. And I said, hey, what do I owe? She looks at me like, I don't know. It's based on employees, you know. And Carl was there assisting another customer, you know. And he says, or she said, no. She was actually, you know, you've got like 15 days, you know, after you're, you know, before a late fee would. I said, okay, that's, to me, common sense, that's the way that would be applied, okay? That was a mistake, okay? I have two problems with that. One, he should know that. You know, that was, I'm sorry, you don't even know how to enforce your application fees, okay? So I've already kind of, you know, where's this guy coming? The second thing is, and then we talked about some issues and things. Keep in mind, he did not do my inspection. I mean, I don't feel like the health department should be able to just walk into your business 365 days a year. And, you know, they come in, they do an inspection if they have a complaint. So what was the purpose of them being here? It wasn't to help me out. It wasn't to, you know, do me a favor and make sure I wasn't late. It was more of a, hey, by the way, you're already late, you owe me. You know, in which case he ended up being wrong, okay? We talked about just briefly my wastewater system was our concern. He asked me about it. I said, come here, actually, let me show you, you know? And I said, this is not compliance. This is not, say, you know, certified, you know, what we're supposed to do. I said, and I'll show you exactly why. You do with what you want. He looks at it. I actually had a filter system. And I said, to me, the hauling out is extremely messy, can be. And I've had some bad experiences with it. I said, with this, the water coming out was filtered very, very clean. Okay? I mean, you could literally drink. He looks at it, he goes, wow, I don't smell it, I don't see it, he goes, I like that a lot. You know? I said, well, I'm fine. I'm just telling you, if you want to change it, then give me some heads up. Because obviously it's been, you know, fine like this, you don't see a problem with it. We're in the middle of winter, you know, just don't blow my doors off, you know. Oh, no, I have no problem. He goes back and discusses, comes back and says, hey, the one to meet with me, he said, we do need to change that. Really? Yeah, he said, there's an E. coli issue or concern. Okay, so I asked him, I said, so is there no way around that? Because you have no other problem with it. No, he said, well, I said, can't E. coli be controlled with bleach? He really didn't have an answer. I said, hell, we already dumped so much bleach down the drains because of natural sanitization, you know, in our use. I said, I'll drain freaking pool chlorine down if I need to, you know, if that was satisfied. I don't think he had an answer. I don't think he knew where to go with that. No, well, we just need to change it. Okay. I mean, you win. I told you from the beginning, you know, I changed it. How much time we got? Well, I don't expect you to do it this week because the ground's frozen, you know, it's nothing. So now for wastewater to go outside, I've got a whole other set of issues to deal with. I've got to deal with heating element for that water. Freeze up in the winter, it's hard enough. So as I'm looking at all this, I'm just like, you know, okay, at least be compassionate with me. The system has worked, you know. I understand your concerns. I'm willing to change it. We closed down for Thanksgiving. He calls me, or on the week after that, he calls me at noon, and I put a post and said, we will be reopened this week, you know, for the holidays and stuff. We'll be reopened, you know. He calls me 30 minutes later and says, oh, hey, I did some checking. That wastewater system is going to have to be changed immediately. Carl, I just announced to the public that I was going to be open, you know. Well, and I'm pretty sure he was probably aware of that because he's told me before he's seen my Facebook posts. When? Do you not understand immediately? Holy shit, dude, could you just say it like that? You know, we've messed around. Finally, I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to close it down for through the holidays, and then we've looked at more in the winter. A couple more things happen after the winter. I go back again. I'm okay. Well, I'm down. I'm going to do a little bit of remodeling and stuff. You know, I'm going to working on it, and I've done this for 10 years. It's a lot of work. It really is. I know the community loves that place, and that's so hard for me. I was like, you know what? If I've got to deal with all the headaches of this place, and I've got to deal with something like that will change his mind on a whim. You know, and the attitude, I'm just not, you know? So I think in fairness to everybody, you just got the wrong person in the job. And there's a lot of conflicts I don't think you're going to resolve it. I don't think it's a matter of fixing the situation. You will run off every mobile food vendor because, like they said, they're not going to want to come here. You're going to have a lot of problems with your wedding events and stuff. No, what's going to happen with all your fish fries, things like this? You're going to lose so many social engagements in this county. I appreciate it, but okay, again, I'm done. But you want involvement, you're getting involvement.
Yeah, and again, what I will say again, I wish you'd met with Kim because our board can't hear. I understand you're afraid of retaliation, but our board
Well,
can't.
it's just me. I feel like that's a general.
I understand, or at least contact one of us because, okay, but none of us had heard things and Kim had not got complaints. So it's very hard for us as a board to do something when we haven't heard directly from you. I don't take Facebook things as being, yeah. And so had I heard directly from you, that would have been totally different. So, you know, please in the future, contact, if you don't feel comfortable with Kim, contact one of our board members.
Will you put your emails and phone numbers out for the public to be able to contact you? Because right now, you're not out there for us to be able to contact you.
Okay. Yeah, we can take care of that. Okay, is there any more comments?
Well, with respect, there does need to be an investigation. I think he needs to be suspended during it.
Agreed.
Hey, Cobb, 47841. We are one of the businesses that doesn't have a permit. I have a timeline to pass out to you that kind of details what our business, like the trajectory we've been through. I actually have not had negative interactions with Carl. We talked on the phone and he was pleasant on the phone to talk to, but he hasn't been out to our farm yet. And so you're not permitted? We are not permitted, and this will explain all that. Would you like an application or anything? Oh, we applied for a permit. It gives you a timeline of what all we did. We were first contacted by the health department in November saying that we didn't have a permit. We didn't realize that we were supposed to have one, and this will tell you why. But we paid for our permit 4 days later, and we haven't been inspected yet. And there's been question about our septic system not being commercially licensed, but there are things in the Indiana code and the Indiana food code that give exemptions for facilities that are already in existence and haven't changed use and that kind of thing. We had been approved and inspected by the Board of Animal Health for a lot of years, and we had the FDA visit us. The USDA was even there. So none of them had problems with anything that we had going on there at the time. And so there is exemptions for businesses that are in buildings and facilities that are already in place and they're not changing their use, that you don't have to immediately bring that up to a new code. So I just wanted you all to be aware of that. You can have a look if you want. And, so we are not permitted, but we paid for a permit and we're just still waiting. So you already paid for your permit? Yes. And paid lately, because you know you want to, you were very late. Okay.
Thank you, Kate.
Well, thank you.
Any other comments?
I do. I'm not gonna take on Carl. I think the community needs to know by 1C16-20-2-4, the board is supposed to have 4 of one party and 3 of the other. The 4 Republicans to be Democrat. This board, as far as my opinion, it's just my opinion, I'm not a lawyer. This board's illegal. Y'all Republicans. And I think that should be brought in particular. He even talked about, I'm not on the county council. We didn't get the point. For some reason, they said, I don't want to this rights.
What about having independence? Might have to do
It actually says they can't be more than 4 of one political
Yeah,
party,
one
right?
for one board, right?
And that needs to be changed. I'm sorry. If we start here at the base of the board and it's not really legit by law, that's a problem.
And if the foundation, the oversight is not required to follow the law, it is very unjust that.
And one thing, I told you, the health board had a lot of cracks in the foundation. You need to patch. This is one of them that's being fixed. That's all I got to say. I have nothing against any of you guys. It's law. And we're not following the law. Okay?
We are simply appointed.
I know. I didn't say you wasn't. And I said, I've got no beef with any of you. It's just that it's Indiana code and it needs to be followed. And it's not.
I have a question.
Yes.
How is it determined whether you're Republican or
Let's see.
Democrat? I'm asking, is it how you're registered? Or how you voted the last election?
Yes. We got one on here that was no record of ever voting. We got one that was voted Democrat and turned right around. So you can go over the record yourself.
So you're classified Democrat or Republican by whether the last primary?
Yes.
What tickets you requested?
You can get yourselves.
Really? Because I'm a registered Democrat, but I pull a Republican ticket because they have the voter candidates that I want to determine.
Yeah, that's what I started to say. I don't really think that's anybody's business how I'm registered, but at this time, you know,
It is our business.
well, I understand, but like I say, I'm not a fan. I would, you know, jump. I mean, I understand, and I'll tell you, I've always been a Republican, but I said, you know, did you want to say something to that, Marty?
You're not on it. No, because I'm not.
No, you're not.
As to Rick's comments, when we appoint people, we thoroughly check. It is almost impossible to find a Democrat willing to serve on a board like this. But when we appointed, we had the proper balance of Republicans and Democrats. Now, after they were on the board, somebody may have changed that, but we didn't follow up with that. So, I mean, that's something we're gonna have to look at when the reappointment comes up, that or, you know, those who have voted Republican, pulled a Democrat ticket this time. But when we appointed, it was the proper balance.
And I will say, I know they've looked into that because they had told me before that the board had to be made up
And I
of
want
that.
to add to that, I've checked the law, and I hear what Rick is saying, but we make appointments for 4 years. The state code says appointments are for 4 years. And the state code clearly indicates and states how a board member can be removed from office. There's 3 things listed. Number 1, if you miss 3 consecutive board meetings. Number 2, if you miss 4 meetings during the year. Thirdly, if you do not carry out the statutory duties of the code. And none of those really apply to replacing a board member, as I read it. Again, this would have to be interpreted by an attorney, but Marty's right, and these are the 3 reasons listed in the state code for removing a health board member from their position.
And I know you've been aware of that in the past because I know that's been a big concern when you've appointed board members. I've been on this board long enough to know that that's many times what you were looking for. So
Yeah, we're
it
very
has
aware of
been.
this, 4-3. State code states maximum of 4 or 1 party. That is very, very correct.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Who was the newest appointee?
You want?
Who was the newest appointee?
Lori Mailer.
The state code.
Did you have to?
I didn't hear you.
You have to replace him for Republican. Was Republican?
We cannot go over the 4. At the time, as far as we knew, we were okay. Okay.
Paul asked.
I can be, I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You could replace.
And we need to move on with time here. Is there any other comments?
That was your offer, Jack.
Okay.
Republican reports that they want to read. For a long time, been trucking together, all this other stuff. Let's not move attention on this food situation. No, we're going there. You know, I have some issues with my trailer. I've since got a grease trap. order new filters for my vans. Supposedly there's a new law about having to have a suppression system, which I don't have right now, so I do not have a permit in Clay County. So I've been working on some stuff, but, in a message I sent to Lisa Shaw, she asked me, I've heard you weren't doing Clay County fair this year. I said, no, unfortunately, no. I said, due to the health inspector and the codes, and, I said that he was there last year. And I did put in the bottom of the thing, I said, sounds like it's taken out of its competition, I guess. It was some point fingers, this was a private message between me and another person, but it got passed along. I have a video on Mr. Carlson at my house, screaming at me, Friday. Just going on and on at my house, in front of my house.
Thank you.
And it was just a private message between myself and another person that got passed along. And it wasn't very professional. He could have come at me different. It started out silly. And then he just threw the paper in my face. You want me to fucking read it to you? That's exactly how it was presented to me.
Any other comments?
I will comment on your comment. I was the one who, Lisa is my daughter.
Okay.
She sends all this stuff to me, or sent that to me,
Yeah.
because she knows you.
Yeah.
And she used to, get the vendors for the Clay City.
Well, she contacted me, asked me
Yeah.
why, and I thought she was still with that.
Because she used to get the vendors for the county fair and the Clay City Fair. So she passed it to me because she was real concerned. I passed it to Kim and to Lynn. Those are the only two people I gave it to.
I think the evidence is overwhelming. And it needs to be addressed.
But to let you know, that's how,
I've had some more stuff.
We are working on
it as
addressing
well.
that's how Carl got that.
That last Friday.
That's how he got a copy of that, is from me,
Gotcha.
or else from Kim or Lynn.
It was just a private message between us.
Okay, thank you.
When you're ready to have everybody together, come to my venue. You're welcome.
Very nice of you to offer.
I'm all about community, I promise you.
It's nice.
I'm all about community. It's a nice atmosphere. We're out there private. No one can hear us. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for
What's your
that.
last name? What's your last?
Wilkerson.
Wilkerson.
Thank you for offering that. You do have a nice venue out there, and I appreciate you offering. All right, if no other comments, I move that we adjourn, or I would move for someone to make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you for those who come today and sharing your comments. And if you have any concerns, we will put our emails and our phones on Facebook, and you can always